Hello there, everybody. Welcome welcome to Speaker Chat. This is Tracey Ehman, and we are going live today on our group because we've had a bit of a technical difficulty going live on our page. So just a moment here while I shut down there we go, perfect. All right, so today I have with me our guest, Lois. So wonderful to have you here. You've been helping us out a fair bit on the page, and it's wonderful to have you here with us. And Deb, thank you very much for co-hosting with me as I kind of get my bearings on this again. Just a second here.
Always good to be here. And yes, we're so excited to have Lois on today. And thank you for everything you're doing in both of our groups and with our page. It's really helpful having.
Well, listen, it's my pleasure, and it's fun being a part of this. So it's my honor. I'm the one who's honored. I'm happy to be with you all today.
Thanks so much.
Now, Lois, you know what? It's the spelling of your name. Is it Creamer or Creamer?
It's spelled Creamer. I pronounce it Kramer, and you'll have to pick it up with my husband.
No, that's perfect. That's what I thought, and then I'm like, I was going to ask that before we ran into some issues. So
no worries.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's just get started here. I know that we're a little bit delayed, and I apologize for that. But today we are very thrilled to have Lois Creamer with us, and we're going to talk about making money speaking, which I know is top of mind for all of our members and anybody that's going to be watching this video afterwards. And just so everyone knows, we will upload this into our main page as soon as we're able to. So, so I'm going to read a little bio first, because I would love for people to know about your expertise. You have done amazing things, and yeah, I just want to share that out. So Lois Creamer is a recognized industry expert working with speakers who want to book more business, make more money, and fully monetize their intellectual property. She is the author of Book More Business, Make Money Speaking 2017. There's the book, yes, and I just actually picked it up, and I'm just about to start reading it, so I can't wait to find out more. I might have some questions for you about that later on. But so Lois's clients include Chicken Soup's Jack Canfield, best-selling author of the Sales Bible, Jeffrey Gitomer, sorry if I destroyed that, chairman of the C-Suite, Jeffrey Hazlitt, presentation guru, Patricia Fripp, and more. We were just talking about Patricia and how amazing she was earlier today too. So Lois's expertise and no-nonsense style has led her to be invited to speak at over a dozen National Speakers Association annual meetings, NSA, and CAP meetings. And Lois works with speakers in the area of positioning, selling, social strategies, and product creation. Prior to Book More Business, Lois worked in sales and marketing for the United States Steel Corporation. That's interesting.
A small mom and pop.
Oh, okay, very cool. I came from the utilities area myself, so that's very neat. Okay, so let's just get started. Now, you say that you work with any speaker. You always start with developing a positioning statement. Can you give us an explanation of what that is?
Yeah, I'm kind of known for developing positioning statements, and really what it is, it's a simple concept, not so simple to do it, but it's a simple concept. It's the answer to the question, what do you do? And I found out early on when I started my business that too many speakers really sucked at answering that question. Typically they would say, well, I speak on sales. That would be their answer. And as we have developed into more intellectual property businesses, we're speakers, but we're also purveyors of intellectual property now, really. We repurpose that speech into other product lines and other vehicles we take to the marketplace. I think that you're limiting yourself calling yourself as a speaker. So I believe in creating a positioning statement that describes you by the concept and outcome of working with you. It's a simple concept and outcome statement. It is not an elevator speech, which I think are too long. I've never given a speech in an elevator. I don't know what the audiences are like in there, but I think that that's never the right way to do it. And it is not really a defining statement. It really is the answer, what do you do to engage someone and see if they have any interest in knowing what you do. And so my positioning statement, you just gave, Tracey, when you introduced me. Because if I hadn't met you, I would have said, I work with speakers who want to book more business, make more money, and fully monetize their intellectual property. That's what I would say. And notice what I did not say. I didn't say anything about speaking, consulting, writing. I didn't say any of that. Because at first blush, people want to know what we do, not how we do it. If they aren't interested in the what, they could care less in the how. And I want you to consider, if you like what I do, maybe you'd want to hire me as a consultant, maybe you'd want to book a speech, maybe you'd want to buy one of my books. There may be a number of ways that we can engage. So that's why I don't use the vehicle, if you will, when talking about what we do. I used to, years ago, do sales programs for corporate sales teams. And I did it under the banner of fast forward selling. And my positioning statement for that was, I work with organizations that want to fast forward their selling skills so they can be more successful at what they do. That's what I would say. So if I were approaching Tracey as a decision maker, I would say, Tracey, I work with organizations like yours who want to fast forward their selling skills so they can be more successful at what they do. And I'm reaching out to you to see if one of my programs may make sense for an upcoming meeting. So I did do three things when I'm introducing myself: in voice, by email, on phone. I give my name, my positioning statement, and my transition sentence, which is why I'm connecting in the first place. I'm reaching out to see if one of my programs may be a good fit for an upcoming meeting, because I'm going to go after the biggest fee item in my toolkit. So that's my positioning statement for sales. I worked with an Army general who retired, and he wanted to speak on leadership. We created a positioning statement for him. By the way, I asked him, I said, what is your area of expertise? He said, leadership. I've been in the Army 30 years. And I said, what was your last position? He said, I was head of NATO. And the positioning statement we created for the general was, I work with leaders who want to stand up, step up, and take charge. And that's worked very well for him. So the template, if you will, becomes, I work with organizations that want to blank in order to be able to blank, or so that they can blank. And I say it should be 7 seconds or less. We're professional communicators. We should be able to communicate using an economy of words. And believe it or not, I speak to speakers. They're my audiences now. And they aren't rotten fruit at me when I say use an economy of words, because mostly I'm telling them you talk too much. And we want to really get in, hone in right away on what the money talk is, what the deliverables that we can give people. So that's why I put a lot into creating positioning statements with people, the concept and outcome of working with you. And then you get into more details as the prospect has interest. So they might say, how do you do it? How do you do what you do? And then I would say I do it through my speaking, consulting, writing, and I'm going to wait to hear where their interest lies. They also could say, Tracey, they could say, when I give my positioning statement, they could say, how nice for you, which is a sign they have no interest at all in me. And that's not bad. That's good to know, because we need to be productive when we're looking for business. So that's my take on positioning statements. And I say it's the foundation of your business. It's one of the most important things, one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself. It's my positioning statement. It's my voicemail. If I were leaving you a voicemail, I would say, Tracey, I'm sorry I missed you today. My name is Lois Creamer. I work with speakers like you who want to blah, 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 blah. And my signature line on my email is working with speakers who want to book more business, make more money, and fully monetize their intellectual property. So I use it all the time, all the time.
That's fabulous. I like the way that you've made it very simple. It really is what's in it for them.
That's right.
And what, right? And making it so short instead of trying to figure out that 60-minute elevator speech, which you're right. I've never in an elevator that long, and I hate elevators. So the last thing I'm thinking about is what my pitch is going to be. But so okay, so this is amazing. I know I definitely need to do it for myself, so I'm going to be writing down notes afterwards as I'm listening to this again. So after we create our positioning statement, how do we use that?
Well, we use it in every way. You know, essentially, I say you want to wallpaper the world with your positioning statement. In fact, when I create a positioning statement for a client, I give them homework. And part of the homework is to take that positioning statement and say it 100 times a day for a week. Leave themselves a voicemail saying it to see how it sounds. Because you want to be able to sound like you're not reading it. That it is such a part of what you do. It comes so organically from you. You don't even have to think about it. Because I found that when I discovered this, people started hiring me based upon my conviction in saying what I did. Now, I had to be able to deliver, obviously, or I wasn't going to hang around much. But that's how you use it. And the main way to use it is to sell your speaking. It's how you want to engage the decision maker. Name, positioning statement, and the transition. Why I'm reaching out. I'm reaching out to see if one of my programs may be a good fit for an upcoming meeting. And then after you say that, I've got something that we're going to talk about, my 10 questions, I call it, to book more business. They're qualifying questions that I think actually quantify how interested a prospect is in working with you. I think that after you use my questions, you should be able to know whether you're going to work with this client now, sometime in the future, or never. You're going to know how hot of a prospect is that. And really, when we're selling, most of us are solopreneurs. And I mean, you can see my whole staff standing behind me, can't you?
Hi.
Buddy, the intern, my lab is not here, or you would see him right now. But so our challenge is to be super productive in the time that we have to do outbound marketing. And I don't do a lot of outbound marketing when I'm traveling. So I want to be super productive when I'm in my office. And I think having a positioning statement, having these questions in front of you are the best and easiest way to sell yourself when looking to sell a speech. So after I would say I'm reaching out to see if one of my programs would be a fit, I'm going to go right into my first question, Tracey. I'm going to go right into saying, do you use paid professional speakers like me at your meetings? And I think you can guess why I say paid professional speakers. Because I'm looking for people who have historically used fee-based speakers. And let me just point out, if they say we've never paid anybody before, I'm probably going to say bye-bye. Yeah. Because the odds of me telling them my fee and them deciding they're going to spend that money for the first time ever on me are highly unlikely. So I'm looking for that person who historically brings in someone like me and might consider doing so. So I'm going to go right into my first question, which is, do you use paid professional speakers?
So we're going to actually touch on some more of those questions, but I love that. Right out of the gate, yes. You're already determining whether you need to move on to question 2. But before we go there, and we'll touch base with Deb in just a minute, but you're talking about decision makers.
Yes.
And so who are the decision makers that we need to find that will hire us, and where can we find them?
You know, great question. When I first got into this industry, I never even knew this was an industry. I mean, color me surprised. I worked for U.S. Steel. I literally got a phone call one day that the baby we'd been waiting to adopt was here. And I walked out of U.S. Steel and never looked back. I wanted to be home. and raise a child. And a friend of mine had an accounting business in an incubator, entrepreneur incubator, next to a professional speaker. And he was looking for someone. She said, you ought to call my friend. Well, he called me, and I didn't know, what the heck, you mean you get paid to give a speech? I was totally surprised. And I ended up working for him. We ended up having a great relationship. He's very successful, 10 minutes from my house. But for a long time, I was told, you look for meeting planners. They're the ones who are going to hire you. And it was a little while later I learned that the term meeting planner is really a euphemism for decision maker. We need to be looking for a decision maker. And in the worlds that we operate in professional speaking, I say there are two worlds. One is the corporate world, one is the association world. And they're entirely different to sell to. In the corporate marketplace, the decision maker typically is the VP of sales. Whether you speak on sales, leadership, time management, whatever you speak on, sales usually is the one who dictates the budget and makes the decision on who they're going to bring in. So I would go there and then be sent elsewhere if I needed to be. The next most likely suspect, if you will, in corporate would be the VP of marketing. But I say go in asking for the VP of sales. And then on the association level, on the state association level, the decision maker is the executive director. And you sell them almost like a business. And the executive director is the decision maker. On the national association level, it's, I call it kite in the wind marketing because it can be very frustrating. They're real peaches to get. But on the national level, you are going to contact the person called the meeting planner, but they are never the decision maker. They're the information gatherer for a volunteer committee who makes the decision on who they're going to bring in, and you'll never get a chance to talk to them. That's why you have to have great marketing material and good copy, which is good news for you, Tracey. Yeah. That's why we need to have that, because if they are not drawn in by that, we're never going to get a chance to talk to them about what we can do for them. And ultimately, I'll tell you, if you go to my website, and I certainly hope you do, it's being rewritten though, but my whole website is designed for one call of action, and it's not to sell you. It's to have you want to pick up the phone and talk to me about your business. So those are the decision makers, and it isn't always the most likely person that we think it is. But you kind of have to jump in. And I'm a big believer in getting email addresses and emailing first, and using an email with a short template. And I shared this on the WSA website. Someone had asked about that, with introducing yourself, your name, your positioning statement. I'm reaching out to see if I can talk to you about what I do. This sounds familiar. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we do create these systems in our businesses, we actually get them done, and we get comfortable and we get productive. So that's who you want to ask for. Ultimately, you want to get to the decision maker, the person who can make the decision to say, yes, we'll bring you in. Yes, we'll pay your fee. And then it's all details from there.
So another thing that you're bringing home with this is that you can't wait for things to happen. You do have to take the initiative. You do have to use everything that you have out there. Everything that you have out on the web is, you know, definitely you want to roll your positioning statement into that, because you want to attract the people that are looking for what you speak on, the knowledge that you have. But you also need to tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, here I am. So I love what you said. And I think I'm just going to take this moment to check in with Deb and just give a shout out to people that are following us currently. And maybe if we could ask the people that are following us, has anyone already developed their positioning statement? We would love to know what it is. So maybe just put it in that the comments below, and then we'll come back in and read them as we go.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tracy. Lois, everyone is loving everything, which we
Thank
fully
you.
expected, and so many great comments. We have a lot of people tuning in. So thanks to those of you who have bared with us with our techno issues. We are mostly in the main Facebook group, and I think I'm also broadcasting back to the page, believe it or not. I don't know why, how, and into the Premier group. So wherever you are, we're trying to catch all your comments. I see Barry. I feel like I'm on Romper Room, but Mary.
I see Barry and Mary.
I can see you in your pajamas working behind your computer. Not really. Cassandra, Dawn Marie, so many people. Deborah Ann, Sherry, Lynn, Galit, I hope I'm saying your name right, Shireen, Cheryl. We have a lot of comments like people love you saying paid professional speaker.
Yes.
And quotes, really great information. We have a bunch of Go Lois, so you have a lot of cheerleaders out there and fans, which
nice.
we fully expected. People are saying really good info about what you did with the website and saying there's like a single call to action, a single message that you're trying to get across there, and that people are really glad that we're recorded so that they can come back in and listen to all the great content you've already shared.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
They're loving it. And I'll check back in on people's positioning statements, and bear with me because Facebook sometimes loses our comments. So if I don't catch you, we will come back and check them all out later. Thanks so much, Lois. This is great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Much appreciated. All right. So you had mentioned, you just touched briefly on qualifying questions that you need to ask to figure out if they're going to be the right fit for you, or what you're going to be the right fit for them. You know, I mean, we always talk about when someone hires you, you can also decide whether you feel that it's a good fit for you to work for them too, right? So always keeping that in mind. So we've discussed question one. We can touch on that again, but can you share a few more of those questions with us?
If they have said yes, I think a great question, I think there's never a bad time to do some market intelligence. It would probably be a good time just for me to state, I am a big believer in target marketing. You can decide your market as everybody in the world, but that's the alphabet plan, and I'm not a fan. I think that if you target by industry, so healthcare, financial services, professional services, manufacturing, retail, then you really can carve out an action plan for what you want to do. So let's say, for example, financial services would be a good target market. Then I know good markets within that industry would be banks, credit unions, mortgage houses, mutual fund companies, people who make checks. That's all financial services, insurance companies. And those are the kinds of people I want to reach out. Ultimately, if I target market, every speech I do in a target market creates momentum for the next person to hire me. If I've worked for State Farm Insurance and I'm approaching John Hancock, they're going to be interested because they're going to say, she's worked in our industry and she knows what we're about. And I think it's easier to do market intelligence in one industry than to do market intelligence for the world. Mm-hmm. So my next question would be, who have you used in the past? Have you brought anyone in the past? And you might hear a name that you know. I used to, when I was looking for sales, I would hear Jeffrey Gitomer. He's now a client of mine. He wrote the Sales Bible, the Little Red Book of Selling, the Little Black Book of Relationships. I mean, he's made $1 million on these little books. And some people would say Jeffrey Gitomer. If they told me they used him in the past, I knew two things immediately. Number one, they like sales. They brought in a real sales guru. And number two, my fee would look like peanuts compared to what they paid him. So I knew I wouldn't have a lot of fee anxiety. Either one of us would have a lot of fee anxiety. If they say someone you don't know, you can just go on, or you can just say, what did they speak on? Just a little market intelligence for you. And then I'm going to go in to see how how much do they really mean it that they have meetings? Do you have a specific meeting coming up? Do you have a specific program date? And here, I'm looking for them to say, yes, we're looking to meet September 2nd, 2018. Not, we're thinking about the fall. That's not a done deal to me when they're thinking about having it in some season. Somebody who is saying, yes, we're having a meeting September 2nd. And then I might ask a key question. When do you begin planning that September 2nd meeting? Because if I'm calling them right now, I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but the odds are they're not going to say, you know, Lois, thank God you called. We're having a meeting, we're planning it right now, and you would be the perfect fit. If that happens, I'm putting them on hold. I'm going down to a drugstore a few blocks away and getting a lottery ticket and using my great fortune and luck to win the lottery, not on this one call. So the odds are they're going to say, we're meeting September 2nd. We're going to look to plan that in June. They're going to have some time to plan it. Now, if I were calling right now and this were exactly what happened, I would say this. Sounds like for that September meeting, you're going to plan it in June. It doesn't seem like this is on the front burner for you right now. Would you like me to step back, and touch base with you in June when this is something that you're actively planning? And I'll tell you, if you do this, they will love you because they don't want to talk to us if they aren't in a planning mode. And a common mistake we make, and notice I say we, whenever somebody had a pulse in a meeting, I would send them everything I had, everything. And then when I called them in June when they said they were planning, they wouldn't remember me and they would say, well, would you send me everything again? So now, if I said that, they would say, that is exactly what we'd like you to do. I would ask for their email address. I would ask whether I could put them on my blog list. And I would just send an email saying, I enjoyed talking to you today. I look forward to speaking to you in June when you're actively planning this meeting. And I would attach a PDF of my one sheet. I happen to have mine right here. And we talk a lot about this on both WSA pages. I would attach my one sheet because my one sheet is basically the who, what, when, where, and why of me on one sheet. So I'm not overwhelming anybody. I'm not attaching video, my bio, because really, as much as it might hurt somebody's ego, they are not that into us at this point. So I'm not going to overwhelm and assume more interest than there is. So, but when I call back in June, Tracey, I'm going to say, this is Lois Creamer. When we spoke in February, you suggested I call back right now. Now that takes a whole different tone, doesn't it, when I'm saying that to you, instead of reintroducing myself. The first thing I'm going to say is, you told me to call you back at this time. And I'm going to start off again. Do you have that specific meeting? Is it still coming up then? And then I'm going to start going into my other qualifying questions. And a typical one would be, where will the meeting be? I think this is important because I'm in St. Louis. If somebody says we're meeting in Chicago, I could create a competitive advantage for myself by saying, you know, my expenses would be relatively small. I'm in St. Louis. I could get up and back to Chicago easily, and my expenses would be very small. And, you know, expenses now can be $1,000 or more. Mm-hmm. Now, if they say we're meeting in Nome, Alaska, I'm not going to say, you know, my expenses will be humongous. I'm just going to say, I hear it's nice this time of year in Nome. I'm not going to say anything. But if I can afford a competitive advantage for myself, I'm going to use that. So I want to know exactly where it is. And then I think a good thing to ask, and I learned this the hard way, by the way, what type of meeting is this? And really, this is to find out how many times a year do they bring in people like me? So if they don't choose me now, are there other opportunities coming up? And I say I learned this the hard way with a big bank in St. Louis. They had quarterly sales meetings, and I forgot to ask that. That wasn't on my list. And when I called them the next time just to follow up, they said, oh my gosh, I wish that we would have thought of you last quarter. We do this quarterly, you would have been a perfect fit. So we want to know how many opportunities are there where you would use someone like me. Always good to know. Always good to know.
So you questions about schedule, location, so you can determine whether there's more opportunities. Maybe you're, maybe you can end up with a gig where you're a speaker on a quarterly or semi-annual basis.
Exactly.
Keep them accountable to what you've taught them in the first visit, and then come back again with elaborate on that. So that's a great opportunity there. So what else do we need to know to qualify? I know there's some more questions, and I believe that you're going to share those questions with us. We're going to get them out there for people. Is that correct?
We'll put a little post I wrote on my blog with all of the questions and talking a little bit about them. The other questions really are, the next one I suggest is, can you share with me how the decision is made regarding who you're going to bring in? Now, lots of times when I do this for my NSA chapters or my CAPS chapters, immediately hands go up. And they say, why are you asking this? You already told me who the decision maker is. The reason I'm asking it is I want them to affirm again that I'm in the money place, that I'm in the place who can really give me a yes. And I want to know, is there anybody else in on the decision who I should be talking to? And that's a good way to find out. I want them to reaffirm that they are the sole decision maker, or if they aren't, I want to find out. Because if they say, Sue Smith and I are working on this together, I'm going to say, I'd be happy to send her anything you'd like me to. I'd certainly be happy to have a phone call with her, make myself available to her. And then some of the other questions are, is there a focus or a theme? And those of you who are out on the speaking circus know these clients love it when we use their little themes, no matter how inane some of them may be. But it's always a good question. Here's the big question, Tracey and Deb. Here's the big question. And it's the one nobody wants to ask. And I'm saying ask it right away. Is there a budget I should be aware of? Now, money hasn't come up yet. I know from doing this 19 years, most speakers hate to talk about money. I'm looking at all of you. You know who you are. And without sounding cruel, if you can't talk about money, you can't be doing this for a living. Because if we don't assign a number value to our intellectual properties, the market will, and they will undervalue you at every turn. So I'm going to say, is there a budget I should be aware of? Because I'm going to be proactive in bringing up money in this first call. Because if they say we have an honorarium of $500, I'm going to say, you know what? It doesn't sound like I'm a fit. My fee is X amount of dollars plus travel. That we're pretty far apart. I would be happy to see if I can recommend someone less experienced than I, who might be a little less experienced, who's, I'm going to make my case. They're going to be less experienced. But I suggest too, when you're giving a fee, give a range, because people are into negotiating now. So I say give a range. My fees are anywhere from $10 million to $15 million. By the way, that's not my real fee. $10 million to $15 million. Is that a fit? Again, I'm going to ask them a direct question. Am I a fit? The answer is either going to be yes, you are, no, you're not, or maybe, right? So if it's yes, great. If it's no, I'm going to say, what exactly is your budget? What numbers are you looking at right now? because I'm going to see whether I can make it fit. If they say, I don't know our budget yet, which sometimes happens, I'm going to say, when will you know? Because that's what I need to know in order to move forward with you on this. This is what I do for a living. So we want to talk about money. If they don't have your fee, by the way, is there a way that they are, is the money close enough where you can ask for cash plus value? And by that I mean, if they don't have my fee, are they videotaping this program? Maybe I can use that to create an online training thing or use to market myself, so that might have some value. Maybe they'll make 5 calls on my behalf to other decision makers who can use a program like mine. I've got a blog post called Defining Value. Anybody can go on my website, call it up in the search bar, Defining Value. And I give some of the things that I consider value if you can't get your full fee. But I like a range because I think it does give you a little bit of wiggle room. And I like a range defined by time. So my fee is $10,000 for up to 90 minutes. And then for a full day, it's $12,000 or whatever. And then if they want you for a full day, but they don't have the money, then we're going to settle for the 10. I want you to always get that first level fee. And we want to let them know we're willing to work with you if we can. But here's the thing. You cannot always make things fit. And that's something that I think the longer you do this, the more comfortable you get at realizing that. You know, not everybody's a fit. I know this now for me. Not everybody is a fit to work with me in this world. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. But you do need to ask, Tracey, I think you need to ask very specific questions. And I think this is the professional way to do it. It values their time and yours. So I think the money question is probably one that people hate talking about the most, but you need to learn to talk about in a comfortable way. And then I have a closing question, which is really just a closure question. Simply this: is there anything else you need from me in order to decide whether I'd be the perfect fit for what you do? And then you might hear, we'd like a conference call, we'd like this, we'd like that. And then you make your case too. I personalize my programs for my clients. So I will be wanting to interview a few people that are going to be in the audience. This is something I always used to do. By the way, I like the word personalize better than customize. Mm-hmm. I personalize my programs for my clients. And I actually had a pre-programmed questionnaire that I sent out. And I would ask to speak to a couple of people, because whenever I gave sales programs for corporate, I would quote some of the people who were sitting in the audience. And the other people in the audience, that gave me some gravitas. They felt like I knew what I was talking about, whether I did or not, when I would quote somebody in the audience. But I think it also said I took time to get to know you. So those are my 10 questions, which we will share in writing for all of you. But those are the kinds of questions that you need to have. And if I can just share real quick, use a qualifying system. I have one that is so simple that people have adopted it. After you've asked those 10 questions, you're going to know whether they have what I call the 3 M's. And the 3 M's are money. Do they have my fee? Money. Meeting. Do they have a meeting date? And the 3rd M is motive. Are they interested in my topic? Meeting, money, and motive. If I hear they have all 3, that's a level 1 prospect, the hottest prospect in my database. And I'm actually going to go into my contact management system and find a place to put a 1 in there. If they have 2 M's, maybe they have a meeting, and maybe they have a date, maybe they have a meeting and a motive, but they're not sure what their budget is. That's 2 M's they have. So that's still a pretty good lead to me. You just want to keep track till you can get that 3rd M. And then people with 1 M typically are ones that will say to you, we have occasional meetings, we don't have anything coming up. And I also call those people by another name. I call those people the people who will suck the life and time out of your business day, who want all the free stuff they can get. Yeah. So you want to make sure you're spending your time with the level ones and level twos when you look at the 3 M's. But that's basically my qualifying system and my qualifying questions. And it's a great way to quantify a prospect's interest into what we do.
Those are great. You know, some of those questions I maybe would have never thought of asking, but also the way that you're phrasing them, it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then it kind of goes back to that whole thing that people do business with people.
Yes.
And if you are taking the time to find out what it is they need, who you're going to be speaking to, what topics are of utmost importance, what their theme is, and you're personalizing things, then they're going to be more likely to go, okay, wait a second, we got to make this work with her.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
and you know, here's the thing. I think that it positions you. Everything to me is positioning. It positions you as very professional when you come forward asking these questions. Look, I do this all the time. This is how I work. This is how I do this. Because I want that person on the other end to know the most important thing for me is fit. It's even more important than money. The most important thing is that I'm the perfect fit for what you want to accomplish in this meeting. And that's what those questions will help you ascertain.
Great. Well, I can't wait to share them all out in written form for people because I know they're going to love them. Deb, I'm not sure. Have we had anybody share their positioning statement with us, or are they shy?
I didn't see too many positioning statements, but I'm sure that when we drop that formula in there, Lois, like we're going to do later, that maybe people will be nice enough to come back and share it then. You probably need a little time to kind of pull it together. It feels like this could be 3 speaker chats, Lois. I mean, I'm trying to keep up with all the great content that you're sharing. People are loving it. More and more are coming in and saying they're running to your website and they're so glad they're here. They love that you're giving really clear, direct questions. I mean, you're giving the actual language that you use, and people are really, really appreciating that and finding that to be really helpful.
Well, I have found, obviously, my business now is a 100% working with speakers. Like I said, my audiences now are only speakers. I don't do corporate work anymore. And I found that a lot of times speakers, you know your area of expertise, but you might not be good at knowing how to talk to a decision maker. And that's where I come in. I like to share with you the exact language that you should use and what will, I think, elicit the best dialogue between you and the decision maker. As I said, because the most important thing is fit. And I'll tell you, if a prospect realizes that you think the most important thing is that you can accomplish what they want to accomplish, you're in. And you're not just a speaker to them, you're a resource. And that's when the relationship takes on a whole different perspective.
I imagine with the system that you use, and I know this is probably true, that you're a repeat speaker to a lot of the groups that you speak to.
Well, I think before we started recording, I said I get trotted around like a pony to chapters, NSA and CAPS chapters. I have been to all of them multiple times. So that's my travel and speaking now, really, to those groups. And, people need to be reminded, I think, of the basics. And even if you're an experienced speaker, it doesn't hurt to find new techniques, new ways of selling, because now, I'm a big believer now that the speech that you give is your first step with a client. My clients go back after the speech and say this. They call them up and say, I just wanted to follow up and say, thanks for bringing me in. I loved being there. I wanted to make sure the feedback that you heard was as positive as what I heard. And I would love for you to put some of that feedback in an email. I'm very proud to have worked with you. It made interest others in working with me. But let me also ask you this. One of my phrase that pays is coming right now. Do you think it would make sense? And this is what I used to say when in my sales programs. I said, do you think it would make sense for me to work with your sales management team to make sure they're actually going to apply the tactics and techniques that we talked about today? Because if you want to do that, we can do that. I used to do it on Google Hangout. We recorded it. Any of the sales management team that couldn't be there could look at the recording. Now we just do it on Zoom. We could do that. I don't have to come in to do it. We can do it virtually. And here's the kicker. Sometimes I got paid more on the back end than I got paid on the front end. So then I'm becoming a resource. Then I'm going to say, do you think it would make sense for everybody to have a copy of my book?
And I just happen to have them with me right here. Right? It's awesome,
exactly.
Though. You
pull it right out of your pocket.
And you should do that for us too here, because people are wanting to know how to learn more about, seriously. And we'll
I feel really that's just obnoxious. But
no, it's not. People are wanting what you're saying. People
I appreciate that. This is what I call the aftercare. You go into aftercare after the speech. How can you serve them? And here's an important buzzword right now in our business. The buzzword is accountability. How can you make that audience accountable to actually digest, use, and implement the things that we're bringing to them? Because that's what they're paying us for. People pay us to come in and move people from A to B, to change a behavior. Typically, I say corporate is looking for you to increase profits, increase productivity, increase engagement, or increase shareholder value. That's what they want. And so if we can find additional ways we can serve, we can find additional ways to make money. And if they liked you when you spoke and everybody bought into what you were saying, I think it's an easier sale the second time when I'm coming back looking for a little bit of consulting. Maybe small group consulting or one-on-one consulting. And this can be depending upon whatever you speak on. If you speak on presentation skills, do you think it would make sense for me to work with your executive team to make sure they are communicating at the highest level with your shareholders?
That alone is worth so much to people who are tuning in, who are speakers, whether they're speaking to grow their business or speaking is their business. I mean, the things that you're sharing here today are really game changers for people to really,
I would love that.
Yeah, make more money doing, speaking. And that's what many of our members are here to do. So they're really appreciating.
And that's what I want you to do. I want you to really take this, go out there and ask for what you're worth. Ask for what you're worth. And here's something that I've learned after 19 years of working with clients at every level in this business. If you have a fleeting thought that your fee is too low, it is. My experience in 19 years, whenever I have a client who is thinking their fee is too low, it typically is. And I, of course, am very in your face when I work with clients, and I will give them my opinion, which might shock you after spending this time with me. But I say that my job is not to be a happy talker, to tell you everything you're doing is great. You wouldn't be coming to me and spending money with me if everything was going great. So my job is to dissect what isn't working, why it isn't working, and what can we change to make it work. And that's what you need to do with these decision makers who are not hiring you or who you haven't known maybe how to approach. Now you know who you can ask for, how to do a little market intelligence, and who to engage and how to engage. I hope.
We definitely do after that. And, so important in this is the follow-up. Like a lot of people they don't do the follow-up. They walk off that stage, they walk out of that room, and they don't reach out again. And they're leaving money on the table there. Like
Yes.
you said, you know, even if it's a low fee,
Yes.
you know, speech that you did initially, it can turn into so much more. As you said, there's so many times where you earn more afterwards when you're working as in a consulting type format with people. So that's another huge tip. Like, Deb, this is just insane. There's so much information today, and I'm just, yeah, thank you so much, Lois.
Oh, this has been fun. It's been fun for me.
It's been really
as I said, I hope people can take this and, you know, really apply it to your business and be fearless. You know, I have a quote, I put it up on Twitter all the time. The answer, if you don't ask for an opportunity, the answer is already no. You risk a yes every time you ask for an opportunity to work with somebody. You risk a yes. And so I want you not to be risk averse. I want you, because you're going to hear a lot of no's, and that's okay. It's going to get you closer to the yeses.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's something I use with my kids all the time. If you don't ask, the question is always no.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I love the way that you phrase it for us going out and getting that business. So we would love to. How can people learn more about you? I know that you have a huge following on social media, and thank you very much for sharing this event out prior to coming on. But we would love to know your website, and we will put the additional information in the comments of this as well.
Thank you. My website is bookmorebusiness.com, and you can find information about my book there. My book is also on Amazon. As you said, I am very active on social media because that's where my target market is, and that's something that you need to learn. Where does your target market hang? What platforms are they engaging on? And so I'm on Twitter on @LoisCreamer, and my Facebook, Lois Creamer, or Book More Business, 2 pages on there. I'm going to be starting my own group soon. I haven't ramped it up yet, but I'm taking my group off of LinkedIn and putting it on Facebook, because I've discovered people are not engaging on LinkedIn as I hope they would. And they are on Facebook. So I'm closing that door and literally starting over with a Facebook group. By the way, the sirens you may hear are not coming for me. That's the good news, folks. I'm not on fire.
Well, I don't know. I think you actually are on fire, because this was definitely a very hot speaker chat. Well, thank you again. Thank you very much for joining us, Lois. And for anybody that has not heard of Women Speakers Association before, we welcome you to visit our page, find out more about our membership levels at joinwsa.com, and definitely come back and put some comments in the video, or excuse me, in the comment below the videos. We would love to, any feedback that you have from the speaker chat, any kudos out to Lois, any questions, and hey, when you get that positioning statement figured out, we would love for you to share that in the comments as well.
And take advantage of all of the resources on the WSA pages. There's an incredible amount of resource you get for free there when you join. And the membership is a drop in the bucket when you look at it's a no-brainer to me when you look at the kind of information you can get. But just make sure that you're availing yourself of this.
Yes, definitely. We would love to have you become a member. And we're always offering up training opportunities like this. And we've got some speaker success training coming up at the end of the month, and we'll be back with another speaker chat live on the first Tuesday of March. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you next time.